Well, it's been 10 months since I bought my Roborock S5, and we at Vacuum Wars have put it through all kinds of tests during that time and compared it with lots of other robot vacuums, including all the other Roborock robot vacuums. But in this video, I wanted to talk about how it holds up after all that time, and if it's still worth it in late 2019. I also went through a ton of online reviews as well as Facebook groups for Roborock owners to see if there were any deal breakers or problems that show up over that amount of time. So links in the description to everything I'll mention, and let's get started. The S5 was easily my favorite robot vacuum when it came out, and even with all the new robots that have come out recently, including the new Roborock robot vacuums like the S6, it still won the best robot vacuum for its price range, that is the $200 to $500 price range, in our big competition video that we did a few weeks ago. First, let's take a look at the good stuff. The S5 is amazing with its pickup ability. It just smoothly and cleanly picks up all types and sizes of debris on all of its 4 power settings from low to max power. I've tested this against a lot of other robot vacuums, and each time I come away reminded of my initial impressions that it's really good at this most basic thing, that is picking stuff up. Part of the reason it's so good here is because it has a decent range of power. We tested its airflow and found that it had a range between 9 and 17 CFM, which is above average. It also had above average numbers on the carpet deep clean test, where we test how much sand it can extract from medium pile carpet. Also, after all this time, there still isn't a robot vacuum, in my opinion, that's better at resisting pet hair tangles. The brush doesn't look that special, and it's not something that Roborock really advertises, but their brushes have always done extremely good on our various hair tangle tests. Another big pro for the S5 is navigation. The Roborock S5 uses Lidar, which is basically a spinning invisible laser, to develop a map of your house. This also allows it to clean systematically, room by room, in more or less straight lines while avoiding obstacles. So of course it makes it much more efficient than the cheaper robot vacuums that just bounce around randomly to clean. Related to that, the Roborock S5 is better than average at navigation efficiency, better than even most modern camera-based or V-SLAM robots, but in addition, I think the Roborocks are still one of the best in the business with its app features. For example, the no-go lines or virtual wall barriers, where you draw lines or boxes on the app to keep the robot from going where you don't want it to go. I found that it's easy to use, very accurate, and still one of the most useful features I've seen on a robot vacuum. The newer Roborocks, like the S4 and S6, do have upgrades from the S5 here. For example, they're a little bit faster at navigation with their bigger microprocessors, so they're just a touch smarter, but it's not like the S5 is slow or dumb. In fact, I'd say that besides the newer Roborocks like the S4 and S6, the S5 is still one of the smartest, most efficient robot vacuums around. The battery life is a major pro. It has a whopping 2.5 hours on low power, which was a pretty much unheard of amount of battery life on a robot vacuum until recently. There are a handful of robots with more battery life that have come out since the S5 was released, but let's just say that the S5 has more battery life than you'll ever need, especially considering it has recharge and resume. So if it does run low on battery power, it will automatically return to the base to recharge, and then return to the exact place on the map it left off and resume cleaning. The S5 has a detachable mopping function as well, and while I don't use that feature much myself, I have tested it in various conditions and found it to be, number 1, effective at picking up dried-on, tough stains, and number 2, unusually efficient with its water usage. I like that it basically can dry vacuum at the same time that it's wet mopping, which it can do because it cleans up the dry debris first before the mop hits it, and I've always said that if you're going to get a robot vacuum mop combo, you need to get one that has the no-go lines feature, because there are going to be a lot more places you won't want the mop to go, like carpets and rugs that you can mark off in the app. I'm going to put the online reviews in the pros column as well, because even after all this time, the S5 has maintained a pretty high score on pretty much whatever site you check. As with any product, there are occasionally defective units which customers have reported were replaced by the manufacturer with no issues, but it doesn't look like there are any real deal breakers after reading through a lot of reviews. More interesting to me though was checking the Facebook group for owners. I asked them how they liked their S5s, and I got a lot of responses. The majority of the responses were extremely positive, with people saying that there were no major issues with around a year of use and with very frequent cleaning schedules. I would say the main complaint among that group was that Roborock was not updating the app to include all the new features that the new versions like the S6 have on the S5, which we'll talk about in a second. There were a couple of hardware issues mentioned, like an error 13 charging issue and a motor on the laser unit issue, where some people had to have parts replaced. Though this wasn't that common, it is something that I wanted to talk about, because replacing parts on the S5 is actually not that hard if you have a little bit of technical know-how. And while you can find basic parts on the Roborock Amazon store, you can find literally every part you would need at decent prices on AliExpress, which is a resource not every robot vacuum has. Before I move on from here, I wanted to say that Facebook community for Roborock owners is amazing. They seem to solve every problem that a user posts really quickly. I honestly don't know of a single group like it, and it's almost a reason to buy a Roborock in itself. Okay, so let's move on to the negative stuff. The dustbin size is fairly small at 480 milliliters. I mean, that's bigger than some Roombas, but it's still a little below average across the board. The customer service isn't that great, mainly because it's only by email at the present time. That being said, Roborock is a subsidiary of the tech giant Xiaomi, which is like the Apple of the Far East, so it's not like it's a fly-by-night company or anything. And it does seem like warranty issues are being addressed and taken care of by the company, according to the comments. To break it all down, in case you're wondering, this is how I feel about the current Roborock lineup in relation to the S5, all of which I will link below. I think the S5 is a better deal than the S6, and not just because it's cheaper. In my comparison, I mentioned that there isn't that much of a difference between the two except for the new processor, and there are some things like the power level and side brush issues that I actually like better on the S5 anyway. I think the S4 is actually a bit of an upgrade from the S5 since it has the new software, the new chip and everything, and it's a little more powerful and it's usually cheaper than the S5. The main downside to the S4 is that it doesn't have the mop attachment. So I would check the prices below to see if the S4, S5, or S6 is right for you, but honestly to me it's a toss-up between the S4 and S5 and really depends on your specific needs. But one thing is for sure, the S5 is still one of the best robot vacuums on the market in 2019. Be sure to subscribe to Vacuum Wars, and thanks for watching.